All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for your patience while we get going here.
Bonjour.
Good night. Bonjour. This is Evan Doggett, Doggett Style Training, and we're live tonight, and we're going to be talking. Hey, Julie. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Hey, just testing. Let me know if you can hear me, please, in the chat. That'd be great. Welcome, everyone. And if you could, change your chat option to all panelists and attendees so that we can all hear and see what we're talking about. Hey, Caitlin, thanks a lot. Kaylin and Caitlin, right on. Hey, okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about, well, Julie and Evan connected, oh gosh, a few months ago now. And
I was late for that one too.
Were you? Hey, you're always
she showed up and then she went, wait a minute, there's no plants in this room.
I know.
Julie always shows up with a heart of gold ready to go.
And a plant.
And a plant. And usually a storm, because that's what's happening. Is it storm in there?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, here too.
You guys got a storm going on?
I like storms. Storms are fun.
I like them when we
internet down.
Yeah, when we don't have to rely on the internet, they're great.
Yeah, that's why I have an office now.
Smart. Yeah, we'll have to pick your brain about that after the session.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, gear and all that stuff.
No, I'm not drinking beer.
No?
I should, but I'm not.
It's the booch.
I'm gonna shut up now. Go.
Here we go.
Talk about this amazing man.
Very excited. So I met Evan. Oh gosh, I can't even remember how we met, Evan, but what you're focused on and what you're passionate about is dogs. And Julie corrected me on this a couple days ago. He doesn't train dogs. Evan helps you build a relationship with your animal, which in turn builds their trust. What Evan teaches is all about education. And he wants to have a good time while he does it too. So he's super entertaining and a heck of a lot of fun. So we're so thankful that you joined us tonight, Evan. Would you start off the session? Oh, a couple housekeeping items. If you wouldn't mind and you have questions regarding your relationship with your dog and maybe some of their behaviors, do me a favor and put them in the Q&A tab at the bottom of the meeting. And I'll be happy to moderate those for us. And
they're all good questions, big or small. And one thing is, like, I have a very diverse background in terms of, like, I did professional grooming for 2 years, almost 3 years. My very first job at 12 years old was dog walking. I've worked at doggy daycares. I've worked at boarding facilities. I've hunting dogs, and you just about you name it other than the circus, I've done it. And even then I went to Texas to work with the head trainer of the National Zoo. So even then, if you got a dolphin in your bathtub, I still might be able to help you. So don't worry about what the question is. Just ask it.
Let's have some fun.
And get the dolphin out of your bathtub.
Yeah.
That's the ocean where it belongs.
Yeah, please.
So Evan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get going here? Like, how'd you get started on this journey? Where'd this all begin for you? And tell us a little bit about how you got where you are today.
Cool. I don't know if this is backwards, but hopefully for my dyslexic friends out there, it might make more sense. My real last name is Doggett. People think that that's a joke. Like, a lot of people, it's to the point where sometimes I've had to be like, no, seriously, here's my driver's license. It's really my last name. I didn't legally change it. And so, I mean, how could I not, right? But I've got a lot of family members that are, they're kind of into dogs, whatever. But I was that kid in the neighborhood that was running around barking at cats. Just this obsessive kid around dogs. I remember being a child in the neighborhood with all the neighborhood kids, and we found this 3-legged dog, and we decided we weren't going to tell our parents, and we were going to keep the dog and raise it as our own. That's always been me. I guess upon reflection, as you get older, you start to reflect more on the earlier days. And there were so many reasons for me not to become a dog trainer. For example, 12, just tell me if it's probably a little bit better audio. I'll bring that mic in. So 5 years old, this dimple right here, I know it's adorable, but not given to me by God. Dalmatian, bit in the face. I have them like on my wrist. I've got them on my calf. I mean, if I just got buck naked right now, we'd go, okay, that's a this and that's a that, and all over since when I was a child. But don't worry, this will be as PG-13 as possible. So many reasons not to become a dog trainer, but I've just always been really drawn to them. My dad was an RCMP officer, so when I saw that first canine unit dog, I was, I always wanted to follow my dad's footsteps because, he's one of my biggest heroes and just an awesome Mountie. And then I saw the canine unit and I went, oh my God, I can do both of these things. Yes, please. And then as I grew older, I get to see that being a Mountie is not as glamorous as they make it appear on that, what was that Canadian show about the Mountie, around North by Northwest or something like
that. Yeah, something like that.
Something super corny. Yeah, it's not that romantic. That every woman that you rescue doesn't fall in love with you right away. They're kicking you out the door and sweeping you with the broom. So anyway, I decided that I wouldn't actually do that, and I thought I would follow in my mom's footsteps. My mom's a high school teacher, and she worked with special needs kids and then taught religion and a bunch of other things. And she was always that teacher that people are like, oh my God, you're Mrs. Doggett's son. I love Mrs. Doggett. She's the best.
Away.
Did we lose me? We lost me. Why did we lose me?
Did we lose him? Or is it just me?
Oh, he's here.
Hey,
there he is.
Back.
There he is.
Okay. That might do that because I'm on a fancy camera that decided to time out, but I'll know what to do quickly next time if that happens again. So yeah, mom was just an amazing educator. And my dad was actually an educator before he went into the RCMP. He was at St. X, and him and his 3 roommates walked by the detachment and it said like hiring, and they went, well, if they'll take us, they'll take anybody. And they all became Mounties, and they all, yeah, it's this crazy story. And so, but yeah, dad was a teacher beforehand and did one half a semester before he got the call kind of thing. And so education runs deep in my veins, and I just really love teaching. So for me, I remember at one point someone asked me like, what makes you different? And I said, well, I love dogs. I love people more. And I think that that's kind of a unique trait. And I don't want to say more. Yeah, I don't know. 50-50. I love them both. But a lot of times in the dog training industry, you have people that are less enthusiastic about the people and more enthusiastic about the animals. And I think it helps to have it balanced out. But either way, I am who I am, and I love what I'm doing. So that's kind of the origin story.
Awesome. Super cool. Anyway. Thanks, Evan. I've got a couple questions rolling in already. Julie, do you have anything?
No, I just I wanted to say that, the idea of relationship because I know even the word training, like it gives me kind of like, just, it's kind of off-putting to me. Like even the word training, even though that's what it is, and that's how that's what we have to say, because we've trained our own brains. Like training isn't a bad word. It's just that the idea, I come from a background of being with dogs my whole life and horses my whole life, and it was always about dominance, right? Dominating the horse, choke chains, obedience classes, like it never sat right with me, ever sat right with me. I always felt like it was, I just didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me why animals just couldn't understand us, rather than us having to like be cruel with them or really harsh with them in order for them to understand what we were saying. So, your philosophy and the creating a relationship and making it fun and making like for both parties, right? I think is huge, because I don't often think that it's fun. It's so interesting that you said you liked people as much. I don't know if I fall quite into that category, but I do. I'm being terrible. I do. I do. I really do.
People are terrible. Let's just say it. People are the worst.
I have a very short fuse for
for sure.
For people that are not nice to animals, kids, and old people. I have a very short fuse. But anyways, I do think it's important, because I think that it's usually one way or the other. Either the dog's not really having fun, but the people are having loads of fun, right? Or they're getting a lot out of it. Or the dog is, I often think that the dog's not having fun. In most of the cases, I don't think the dog's having fun. And I've seen lots of situations where both aren't having fun. Because the person is like, ow, I don't want to do this to my dog, or, oh, that feels harsh, or, I don't understand why I have to be this way. So they're feeling guilty and stressed and whatever, and then the dog is going through all of this. So anyways, my point is, I'm so happy that you're creating fun and joy and a symbiotic relationship, rather than necessarily training.
Yeah, and I think so. For me, really coming into my own right now, in the sense that like Doggett style is pretty new. Like it's been since June, and prior to that, I've always worked for people or been under a franchise or something like that. But I've always been about like, how much more can I learn? What's more I can do? And I'm always studying the human dynamic. I have been since I think at 15, I started reading Eckhart Tolle. Like I've always just been like, how can I improve? How can I be a better person? How can we get the most out of ourselves? And I think there's a lot of, to what you were talking about saying that basically there's certain notions, you have certain preconceived ideas about what obedience is, or what an obedience class should look like and whatnot, and that it's no fun for everybody or anybody, or it's just fun for one or just fun for the other. Is that I think we're also we're going through a shift in society right now where it used to be really harsh. You train the horse, you'd break the horse, and you would, tie him up. And I, when I started my training, I moved to BC to learn how to train hunting dogs. And my first day I went, I got to get out of here. I got to get out. I just drove. And so I got to get out of here. And I was living on a cutting ranch, and I was just witnessing things that I went, not okay with this, love this, want this, don't want this. And my whole experience has been tool belt. I might never ever need to do this approach ever again, but there's that one dog out there that this would really help, or whatever, right? So for me, it's about this thing. And the relationship is, a lot of people are just really, really frustrated with their dogs. I get a call where the dog is frustrated because the person doesn't understand them, and the person is frustrated because they're not doing typically 6 or 7 different things. And so that's why I created this online program. It's 7 elements, and this whole 7 thing was actually supposed to be 8, which was the life wheel, right? How balanced is my life? Mm-hmm. So, we talk about, is the dog having fun and is the person having fun? Well, we can't always just have fun, otherwise we end up being gluttons. And what we think is fun is just this hedonistic lifestyle of, let's just eat all this sugar and sleep on the couch and binge watch Netflix. And the next thing you know, you're dead, right? And that was just a terrible life. But words like discipline or control or fortitude, like they have negative connotations, but discipline means you're up every single day at 5 a.m. going for a walk. Discipline means that you are feeding that raw diet, even if it's a pain in the hole, right? Like discipline can be a good thing. It just depends what avenue you want to go with. And, asking your dog to do a 10-second sit stay just to work that brain muscle, that's stressful. The dog doesn't want to do a sit stay, right? They don't want to, why would I do that when I could be doing this the whole time, right? Life's a party. And so, but like well, there's other elements than just running around. And that's what a lot of people, they call me and they tell me every day, I have a good dog. I have a good dog and my dog listens. And then I finish their sentence, when it matters, right? Your dog listens when it matters, or when it doesn't matter rather. So, but your dog doesn't listen when it does matter. Like, there's a car coming and you say come and your dog doesn't. So sometimes doing things, I believe in my experience, that causes some stress. Stress is good. And for me, it's that fine line of like, how far can I push myself without having a mental breakdown or physically, not being able to get up? Like, I want to be stronger. I want to go a long time. I want to be surfing into my 80s. Like, that's a goal that I have. And this is coming from someone who, let's face it, didn't go into the Mounties, for a certain lifestyle for a while there. So for me, it's about, let's try to live the most balanced, fulfilled, fun life possible.
Yeah, I think it's all the way you see, right? So discipline to some could very well be that more narcissistic view of what discipline means, which is you do everything that I say, you're a robot and you look the way I want you to look and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I think discipline, everything has to be disciplined. Like, I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to meditate all the time. Right. Yeah. But it's like, if I don't, my life doesn't often turn out the way I want it to turn out. Right. So totally. I have to make sure that I'm like, that's discipline. But so I get what you're saying. And
it's the intent, right? It's the intent. It's what am I trying to achieve with it?
Yes, exactly. So, I want you to talk more about, and when I say about, I don't with people, like, I feel like we're going into a very interesting time, like with COVID and things like that. Right. And I think that, I'm hopeful for the human race. I just feel when we say, often people like their dogs more than people, or people of them more than people. But I have to say, like, I saw a lot of people when I was have my practice at my vet clinic, and I loved my clients. I really loved my clients because they tended to be people that even though they didn't know they were searching for something more, their dog brought them to my clinic because they were searching for more. Right. I always look at our animals as something that they have such gifts for us if we just listen. Right. Like, if we just pay attention and we really listen. So, and it's not always hunky-dory and full of fun and stuff. I think we have to develop resilience, like a resiliency, right? But if it comes from, I think if that resiliency comes from also from your heart, it's a different resiliency than what just comes from habitual patterning, right? Of what we listen to on television and what we hear in the media and stuff. It's more like connecting with your heart. And I think our dogs make us do that. Okay, I'm going to shut up.
This guy right here, where are you at, Rush? Hello.
Look at him. Hello.
Well, what do you want?
Hello.
He goes, damn it, Dad. I told you I'm not on till 8:45.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
This guy really pushed me, and a lot of people have difficult dogs and have to make difficult decisions when they have a really difficult dog. Like, I got him in my third year university. When you have the objective of doing well in university, it's not the best idea to get a 10-month-old dog, a shelter dog. But I did, and it was, to be honest, to force myself. It's going to be not the next podcast, but the one after that, of my whole story of getting this dog and why I did. But the gist is that I wanted to force more responsibility in my life, and they really do. They make you focus if you take them seriously. right?
Yeah.
If you go like, you have needs, you're a living creature. You're not a poster of a kitten, you know, which I often recommend to certain people of getting, is like, maybe, you know, your neighbor to do a better job to fit your lifestyle, and you can get a poster of a kitten. So they're challenging, you know, they do things, they have their own mind. And when we want to kind of, it's a relationship. It's a relationship, and relationships are hard. Relationships are challenging. Any of you with a boyfriend or girlfriend or a husband or a wife or an ex or a neighbor, anybody, any sort of relationship, a mom or a dad, they're challenging because you have an idea of what you want to do. What you want to do and what is right and what is wrong and which way to go and the fastest route and all that stuff. And then the other person or the other creature has their own thoughts and ideas and emotions and moods and, you know, how they're feeling that day. My gut's just off. My whole family is going through this gut trauma thing right now, and we're just off. And so we'll talk about it afterwards. But yeah, you know, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with the dogs. Like, they're drinking the same water and they're off, and everybody's just off. And then that just ramps everything up a little bit, right? So for me, it's important. Do we have as much of the relationship down so that we're both meeting each other's needs? The dogs are always going to be there for us and give us the things that we need when we need them, in the sense that, like, get off your ass, I gotta walk, which is good for both of us. Or you look and feel very depressed right now, how about I just snuggle up against you, or whatever. And sometimes that takes maturity to see and maturity for the dog to deliver. A very famous dog trainer said to me one time, he said, until you match the speed that you want your dog to go, he's just going to keep going this speed. So basically, until you learn to slow down. And I just wasn't ready to slow down, right? I mean, I was 20, how old were we, Rush? It was a long time ago, in my 20s anyway. And I have a hard time slowing down now.
That's so true. There's a philosophy that your relationship will only be as good as the lower energy of the person of the relationship, right? Because
they're different frequencies, right? They're different frequencies. So you can't.
In order for you to be here, you have to come down here, right? Like, to meet. And I catch that with my dogs all the time. Like, I have one really difficult dog, and he can just, you know, if I'm in this really calm, awesome state, I can really deal with him. If I'm already, like, I'm in a rush, I'm late, I'm this, I'm that, and he's doing that, it's just like, and then I realize, like, okay, he's teaching you got to be in that place more, right? Like, you have to like kind of practice what you preach here, Julie, because he's, you know, like you said, like, he's an amazing dog, and often I can just be okay with him. But when I'm not okay and I'm like rushed and stuff, then anyways, that's where I think
if we practice things like obedience, right? Like, I want my kids to know how to put their garbage in the garbage, how to pick up their toys. Like, they don't want to do that stuff. But when I'm about to, like, you know, break my neck, and I did just basically break my neck, and I'm getting up off the ground, I want to give them something constructive to do other than fly the hell to it, right? Like, that's not constructive. The child's not learning anything at that point. So it's the same thing for the dog, is like, rather than you just doing this, and I can't just go when someone comes to the door and you're freaking out at the door. Like, me going is going to help me, and it's going to help me see the dog in a different way. And it is going to, because a lot of times when we're rested and we, you know, have been eating well and we've been exercising and doing all the things that we already know what to do. Like, nobody's reinventing the wheel here, but you look at that dog, and that behavior is like, you could just, like, the things that would piss you off make you smile a lot of times, you know, like Hunter today grabbed my hat and he started running around and spinning. And if I was late or I was, you know, underslept and all that stuff, I would have been chasing him around, which only would have made it worse. But instead, it's on the Facebook story today. I was just being, you know, sassy, but I was just going, that's my hat, that's not yours. And you just see him just go, he just spat it out, and I just went over, thank you, and I put my own hat on, and he just kind of sat there, and he just wasn't doing anything. Like it's just one of the, and I laughed so hard afterwards because I went, I've been in this position and I've lost my shit, right? I was, get me my hat, that's a brand new Patagonia hat, are you nuts? Right, running around, and the dog just going, woohoo, all right, it is a party. So and we've all been there. We've all had those moments where you just come unglued because you're an emotional being, and you come unglued and it doesn't work. It's always nice to have that little bit of obedience or something where you can go, okay, I don't know what to do. Like, for example, a lot of my clients suffer from wicked anxiety because, well, I don't want to get into the very root of it, but where a lot of people are dealing with anxiety. Me having 4 or 5 cups of coffee today did not help my anxiety. By the 4th one, I went, what am I doing? And I just like put it down as I'm just starting to vibrate. And so having obedience to fall back on is a super helpful thing to do sometimes. Something as simple as go to your bed, or there's different ways of dealing with unwanted behaviors. And we'll get into it. I feel like there's people that are like, well, I guess they're never going to get to my questions.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. And I think for everyone out there that is like that, my mom always used to say, you have to keep them safe.
Yeah.
Right? If you're only doing it to keep them safe, then do enough then to keep them safe.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's so important. And that's when you'll have to come and help me.
Yeah, it's something that I want to talk about is your mom and the practices and things that she did. Like, I really believe that there's a lot that we can learn from the people that, I don't know, the people before us, right? Like the people that did those things. You know, your mom just sounds like such an amazing person. Like, I'm sure she had things that are just like, oh my God, I really want to incorporate that into my practice. I think a lot of it is your mom, like from what you've told me, is your mom gave them a lot of freedom. And I think that's one of the things that if everyone had a big open space and a farm and would just like figure it out, dogs, they would be fine. Like, you go to certain places, like I went to Costa Rica last year. I traveled quite a bit, and you see these street dogs, and although they're in horrible conditions, they got it figured out. They got so much figured out, you know, but we don't live in Costa Rica. I mean, maybe you do, and if you are, ¿qué tal? Pura vida. But for the rest of us, there are rules, there are constraints, right? So like, you're not allowed to walk your dog down the main street of Halifax with no leash on, because you know, your dog probably won't last very long, just like they don't in Costa Rica and stuff like that. But that freedom of choice often does allow that. So it's going to be a balance, right? Like, not a robot, but not, you know, totally free.
Not unsafe.
Not unsafe. It's a great way to put it.
Okay, let's answer questions and
nah, let's not. Let's just keep talking. We can do the same thing we did last time, which is 2.5 hours of us just chatting. Questions, let's hear it.
After that, I want to make sure that you tell them about your course.
Yes, absolutely. I got the link queued up here. So Caitlin's got a question. Her female just had a litter of 10 pups in July. They've kept a little boy who's now 10 weeks old, and she's still quite protective over him near other dogs. Do you think she'll ever get over this as he gets bigger?
How old is he?
He's 10 weeks now.
Yeah, absolutely. She's going to be driving him away real soon. What, you know, it's that like, I love you. You're too much. Be someone else's. So, you know, I think all moms do that at some point, don't they? What kind of dogs? And just because I'm curious.
Caitlin, if you're here with us, could you throw that into the chat real quick?
Yeah, so I mean, there's that pack dynamic, right? I mean, my female Labrador has had 2 litters of puppies, and some of you out there watching might have one. It was a breeder in Hants County, and it was something that she's a hunter's best Labrador. Anyway, so she had 2 litters of puppies, and it was funny to see her first litter, she was much more protective of. The second one, she went, this isn't, you know, this is whatever. She was, you know, basically at that point became, well, it really mellowed her out. Yeah. So for me, because I do so much pack work, which means like, you have a dog that's unsocial, drop them off at my place, they'll be fine. Like a couple of weeks of living with a balanced pack of dogs that know how to ignore other dogs, whatever. I always wanted her, because I've seen it time and time again. Females that have litters are so valuable to have as a dog trainer in your realm, as a pack member, because they can balance young dogs very quickly. They deliver corrections very evenly, perfect timing. This dog is, she's amazing to watch how well she manages other dogs. And since she's had her second litter, really pushed her into that, a lot more patience. Before she was very much I'm not a party girl, and she would lay into them real quick. She has never put a hole in the dog, but she has grabbed them by the scruff, shaken them, pinned them to the ground, and gone, I'm not a party girl. And then they go, okay, I got it. And they're just different. When they get up, they're just different. And so, but that takes a lot of know-how to know that your dog is going to do that and not cause a dog fight. I'm not suggesting that's a practice that people do, but it's amazing to watch dogs, how they operate versus, a male dog. Some of them act that way, but very, very rarely it's often that female dog. So right now she goes, this is my baby. And it's most likely, she might always be, because they all have personalities, right? I just assessed 2 litters of golden retriever puppies. One was, they're a week apart. So I did the Volhard temperament test. And at 47 days, you do this little test to see what kind of personality they have, how much they want to chase things, how much they want to come to you. Are they coming to you, licking you? Are they trying to bite you? What are they doing? And it kind of tells you their personality. And it's amazing. It's 19 puppies, and they were all unique. They showed similarities, but no 2 puppies were the same. Just like, none of us are the same. So she might always be a little bit more defensive, like, this is my family, back off everyone else. But it would be interesting, again, to see, is she just driving them away and saying, frig off? Or is there intent there? Like, is she aggressive? Because it's a fine line sometimes between, like, F off and I have intent, I want to hurt you. And it's sometimes it's just practice. Sometimes slowing things down in video can really help. The more video you take, the more you'll get to be able to look back and see and really learn this language that is body language, because it's very subtle, but it's amazing to see how they operate. So hopefully that answered your question.
She said it's an American Pit Bull Terrier.
Okay. Yeah. So, I think, again, it's a personality thing in terms of some dogs are more defensive than others, right? Like, naturally, Mastiffs they're guard dogs. Okay. I always get a kick out of when people call me and they're like, my German Shepherd is barking at the fence. Like, oh, really? You don't say, a German Shepherd barking. Or like my Mastiff is guarding the kids. You bought a guard dog. You bought a guard dog. So pitties, it's hard to say because there's so many varieties of pitties, like, is it a American Staffordshire Terrier? Is it and even then they're all different. It's a golden retriever that's bred for show lines. It's a golden retriever that's a hunting dog.
I'm reading what she's saying. She said a nanny dog exclamation. I don't know what she's saying, but
yeah, I know what she means. Yes.
Kaylin, does she try to hurt?
Are you concerned about this? Is she trying to hurt people? Is she trying to hurt
other dogs?
Other dogs.
Trying to see.
Caitlin, if you can, in the chat real quick, just let us know how aggressive she is, or protective, I guess is the word you used.
Sometimes, and it can be a very dangerous thing to do, but
that's Kaylin, not.
So to be safe, here's the thing: is like, if you don't know if your dog is aggressive or reactive, go find somebody who deals with that. But if you don't have access to that, or you don't feel comfortable with that, or maybe you don't have the budget for that, a muzzle is like a seatbelt, right? Like, your dog can't really do, as long as I like the Baskerville 3-strap muzzle. And basically, if you hold that muzzle and can't get it off the dog's face, it's not getting it off its face. And it's just about wearing a seatbelt, right? The dog's going to be uncomfortable with it on. So therefore, if you know you're going to need to muzzle train your dog, do it in a way that's positive. It's in the course. There's a ton of great videos on YouTube, but basically, you know, food and muzzle, and you make a positive association, and the muzzle means you go for a walk, and things don't need to just be like, strap it on, you know, deal with it. You can, sometimes there's those situations where you're in a rescue and it's like, this dog's going to kill me if I don't have a muzzle on him ASAP. But this is a very different situation. You have a very controlled setting. So control it and make sure that your dog is as comfortable as possible.
So what she says, she's fine around people with him, but your dog, she's just barked and growled a bit. But we haven't gone out where she's off leash around dogs, so I don't know if she would attack or not.
Yeah, so just safety first. I don't know why this little box is following me. Let's see if I can get away from it. What do you guys think? 10 points if I get away from the little box. Okay, so, oh my God. Hi, there we go. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Get a real technical setup because I love you guys. So it's about safety. When you're dealing with like uncertainty, like, I wonder if my dog's going to attack another dog. Like, don't be stupid, be safe, right? Muzzle, leash, fence, safety first. Pitties go from 0 to 100 in a second. He's part pitty. I've trained a ton of pit bulls of all different varieties. The ones that come up from Texas, these like, you know, block-headed, giant sumo wrestling Arnold Schwarzenegger pit bulls. I've trained them all. Red ones and blue ones, and I've trained them all. And they go from 0 to 100 very quickly. Anything with terrier at the end is nuts. Like a whole bag of tricks, nuts. And so they just turn on really quick, which makes them so good for what they're bred to do, right? Rat gone, right? So it's about just having that, having those procedures in place so that, you know, we don't need another pit bull in the paper, right? We don't need any dogs in the paper. So it's just about safety first. I think you'd be fine. If she's warning them, it sounds pretty good so far.
Awesome. Thanks, Evan. Evan, could you repeat that temperament test one more time, please?
It's the Volhard personality assessment. No. Puppy aptitude test. Okay. Puppy aptitude test. PAT. So Volhard, VOLHARD, Wendy Volhard. She turned me on to homeopathy and raw fresh feeding and all kinds of stuff.
Thank you very much. Tiffany's got a question. She has 2 issues in training her puppy. Number 1, she barks a lot and quiet, and reward does not seem to help. Secondly, whenever she wants attention, she chews at my hand and arm or goes after my senior Westie's ears, and I cannot get her to settle. Any tips would be appreciated.
Sure. So some dogs are just more vocal than others. A lot of times with super vocal dogs, I mean, first of all, we just need to accept the fact that we got a dog. Like, we consciously brought something into our life that barks. So everyone wants their dog to be silent. And like Rush over here, being as adorable as he is, my God, you're handsome. He's the squeakiest, whiniest, like, what is this dirt road? Like, in excitement, like everything is, oh my God, what was that, a person? Oh, is that, like, he's like 11 now. He's like 11. And I've been doing this for 7 years of every kind of method, every kind of training, more or less, I've worked with, and like, I just have to accept him for him, right? So that's the first thing. Doesn't mean we can't try. So the first thing I want you to do is write down a goal, and every day keep writing down that goal, morning and evening. I want my dog to be less barky. Sometimes you can just will this stuff into happening. Now that sounds crazy. You want to hear something truly crazy? My entire life until age 22, I was deathly allergic to animals. Cats, dogs, horses, everything. I couldn't be around other than like hypoallergenic, and even then I would get stuffed up. And when I was living in Colombia, I went to adopt a dog, and the only one they had was a boxer. And I just went, well, guess I'm not allergic anymore. the power of the brain is amazing. So it doesn't mean it's going to work. It doesn't mean it's not going to work either. So I want my puppy to be less barky, and she's going to chill out eventually. Okay, so I want you to write down your goals, but your goals are a bunch of other things as well. Like, I want my puppy to be friendly with strangers. I want my puppy to walk nicely on a leash. And a lot of those goals you're going to chip away at, right? Like, puppies don't walk nicely on leash. They don't, right? Even like the best professional trainers in terms of like best, like high performance obedience stuff, it's just like, you can only maintain that for so long. And is that realistic? So intent of goals, like, I want my dog to walk nicely on a leash. That might take 8 months. So directly to your question is, a lot of people go right to the treat bag, but timing is so important. So if your dog barks and then doesn't bark, and then you feed them, it's not but the puppy's so young, it's just every second of every moment is a new experience. And what you can do, if you're not like professional timing, 1/2 a millisecond timing, is your puppy barks and you accidentally give it a treat. And now it's like, barking gets me treats over time, if that's the case. So a lot of times when the puppy is getting like barky or jumpy or nippy or mouthy, is, okay, what do we need to work on right now? Like, is there an opportunity where I can go burn off some of that energy constructively? Like, rather than just bringing out treats and feeding the puppy, can I use the treats to go, hey, let's learn something new. Let's stress that brain a little bit, and let's see if I can get you up on that backpack or over this or under this thing. Like, let's get your brain, like, can you fit under the ottoman? And obviously keep it safe. Like, we don't need your puppy stuck under the fridge because you thought it would be a good mental exercise. I want to keep everybody safe. Rule number one. So can I get up off the couch and go do something? That might be a hike, that might be a walk, that might be just sprinkling some food in the backyard, let the dog use his nose. A lot of times that excessive barking is just energy, which is why with an adult dog, when they have a reactive dog and they go sit, it never works, almost never ever works, because it's just energy, right? So the dog's just sitting there vibrating in one spot as opposed to move that energy. So a lot of times with puppies, they're trying to move you because they're just ready to go all the time. Now, there's like 3 questions in there. One of them is my Westie. If your Westie isn't going to correct the puppy, it's not a correctable, like, it's bothering you, but it's not bothering the Westie enough for the Westie to go, enough, right? Unless the Westie's like a senior. And then at which point you go, okay, well, let's just move the puppy over and give them a little break. So a harness, a leash, that way there's no pressure on the neck, because again, it's just, they're not going to walk nicely anyway. And you can remove and kind of help your older Westie if it's like a senior. But even then, a lot of times you'll just finally get that one out of the Westie, and the puppy's like, oh, okay. If depends how pushy the puppy is. The puppy might go, bring it on. Finally, I got something out of you. So every puppy is different. Every dog is different. A lot of times it's, are we working the mind in terms of challenging the puppy? Are we challenging the body? Or is the puppy getting enough exercise? And then the number one thing is, what are you fueling that dog with? That's always, always, always the number one question for me is, what are you putting into that dog's body that's fueling it? Because if it's just kibble, it just burns up like sugar. It's just he's sitting there with a bowl. Did you ever see that bowl of sugar that they have at Tim Hortons when the machine is down? It's just a giant bowl of white sugar. That's all the dog is consuming. So if they're bouncing around like that, that's your first step, is let's get some real food, some real fats in to balance it. I'm not, the number one expert in the world on nutrition. We've got some amazing people in the province, Julie being one of them, or across the world that specialize in fresh feeding and all that stuff. And for puppies, there's a ton of resources there. But my experience is the energy that the gas that you're pouring in the tank, is it going to burn up quick and be spazzy and erratic, or is it going to be a little bit more balanced? So hopefully, did that answer all the parts of the question?
You said that the puppy is now 10 months old.
Oh, that's
not a puppy.
That's not a puppy.
It's a Scotty Westie cross, and then the old one is a Westie. She's 15. She's 15 years old and very submissive.
And probably still pretty spry too. Those Westies, they're tough little dogs. So for me, with a dog that size, 5 months, you have a preteen. You don't have a puppy anymore. That's not puppy behavior. So you start to see that change, right? Where they're like, I'll follow you all the time and I'll do everything you say, and all you have to do is look at me and I'll just roll over. And then at 5-6 months, they're like, I don't really need you that much, but okay, you're kind of cute. I'll come over to you. And then at 7 months, they're like, whatever, mom, gone, and ripping everything up, and they're all over the place. They're just teenagers. It's like when I discovered what that like 4x4 lever did on my parents' truck when I was 16. It was like, oh, bye, see ya. And so you have a full-on raging teenager, which is why you're experiencing and if you think back to those age brackets, you might that might resonate a little bit more with you. All right, so what did that give us more in terms of information? The older dog is pretty old, and the younger dog, a lot of times, like I would let them work it out. And if it's way, way, way too much, and like the 10-month-old is hurting the older dog, that's when I go into separation and teaching, controlling the situation a lot more. Like if it gets to the point where it's rough and causing harm to the older dog, that older dog did not ask you to bring in a puppy, right? Mm-hmm. I love that moment when the older dog's like, are you serious? Did you seriously do this? Like we're just getting to a good spot right now. You brought in a puppy. I got to do all this work for you because you don't speak the same language. My God, I need a raise.
That's awesome.
That always happens. So I would just say, be considerate of that older dog. Yeah.
Super helpful. Thanks, Evan. There's an anonymous question here. How can you get a dog not to jump on people?
A leash. Keep a leash on the dog. Right? Yeah. I mean, like the big one is, and here's the thing, guys, is my whole shtick is I don't want to tell you what to do. I want to give you options. And that's why I've worked with so many different kinds of trainers, is like I have people that go, I'll never use food ever. That is the stupidest way to train a dog. And I go, okay, like if I'm not here to tell you what to do. I want to give you options, right? So with every question, there could be like 10 to 15 answers, right? And then there's all these little sub things like how old is the dog? What breed is the dog? What are you feeding? What are you doing? Where do you live? There's so many things. And one universal truth that I found is like onset aggression towards the owners, random, is often a tumor. And I'm not a vet. I don't even know if I should be saying these things, but I think it will be helpful. And the dogs that progressively get more and more aggressive often have health issues. Like the most aggressive dogs that were just like always angry and cranky and growling and snarling, all had health issues, and most of them had dental issues. Because we don't think about that, right? Like they're such stoic animals. I know this is totally blowing off your question, which I'll get back to, but like it's so important to like health first, because they can't speak for themselves. They can't tell you like I have got a tooth going abscessed and is like or 6 teeth going abscessed, and I'm just angry because I'm sucking on poison and my life is bad. So use your intuition, start to tap into your intuition. One of the best ways you can practice your intuition is while you're driving. Just take a first guess and stick to that answer, what the person in front of you is going to do. Are they going to go right? Are they going to go left? Or are they going to go straight? Just start there. It's a great way, and you'll start to tap into that intuition and go, okay, like how is my dog feeling right now? I would say he's pretty relaxed. Yeah, I would say you are. But yeah, start tapping into that. Start tapping into that intuition. Okay, what was the question again? Sorry, I totally got sidetracked. But
it's her 8-month-old golden retriever just jumping on people all the time.
Jumping on people. Yeah. So there's a million different ways you can do this. So with Unwanted Behaviors, you have 4 options, and I'm not going to say any of them are right or wrong. Okay, it's something that as a family you need to decide. Are we going to ignore it? Are we going to avoid it? Are we going to redirect it? Or are we going to correct it? Okay, so there's always those options. you can totally ignore the fact that just like, well, my dog jumps on people. Like, I know a lot of people that do that. They have no apologies. I've been jumped on by every kind of dog and had different responses of like, "Hi, jumped on that trainer." That's the best. That's my favorite one. "He jumped on that trainer." Like, it's the end of the world. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I can take a jump. I can take a jump pretty good now. And so you can ignore it. You can avoid it. Okay, which would be have the dog on the leash. So someone's coming over. Now, we're so bad for this if you're a Maritime or if you're in the East Coast. We don't lock our doors. I don't even know if I have locks on my door, to be honest. I don't know where the keys are, that's for sure. Like, you can just go in, make yourself a cup of tea. Like, that's just the way it is here. And so what happens in this environment a lot of times is people just walk in, like anybody just walk into your house. "Hey, I'm here. Oh, hi, who are you?" And so the dog's already jumping on people. So when it's a chronic issue and you want to change that issue, you got to break the cycle. And there's almost always a pattern. Like, back to the lady's question with the puppy, is like, there's a cycle. There's a time of day, the witching hour, where the puppies are like, woohoo, going nuts, right? So it's about, all right, every day at 6-ish, my puppy goes crazy. Every time someone comes over, my dog jumps up on someone. So it's just about breaking that cycle to go, we're going to do something different, right? So whether it's having a leash on the dog, so a person comes over, you open the door and then you restrain the dog. They can't physically jump up on the person. You could also teach the dog to go on their bed when someone comes in. Don't make it a huge distance, because that's, or have the dog like sitting on their bed in another room. There's a lot of, it's extra challenging there. So there's a bunch of options there. You can redirect the dog to try to get their attention, but this is where redirecting often fails, is the dog goes, "I don't want your treat." Like, I've had so many treats in my life. I don't want the ball. I've got 400 balls around here and a Tempur-Pedic mattress right over there. Like, I have it all. I want the person at the door, right? And that's where I find in those situations, like the pheasants across the road, and you're going, "Cookie, cookie," and the dog's like, "Pheasant," right? Is that's where a redirect is very challenging. But you can do a ton of patterning where it's like, knock, 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 go to your bed, get a treat. Knock, 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 go to your bed, get a treat. So when that day where the knock or door opens, right? Door opens. This is where having kids or a partner or a neighbor that's very helpful, is dog comes in and it's just so automatic that the dog just learns. It takes a lot of time, for sure. And then the last option is corrections. So applying a correction, for me, if you're going to correct your dog, it needs to be incremental, and it needs to be, obviously, like, jumping up on someone could be fatal, absolutely fatal. Like, grandma gets one jump and then bye-bye grandma. Sorry, we loved you, but you went down the stairs. Like, there's, it can be fatal. It's a serious thing, right? So it's, can I teach the dog to avoid that action? Then once the dog is avoiding that action, balance it with, "Hey, good job. Here's a reward for you," right? And then there's a million ways to apply all of those things. But for me, it's those 4 options. You can correct it, you can redirect it, you can avoid it, but I didn't talk about a ton, which is, well, have a leash on them, but maybe they're in a crate, or maybe they're in another room. Like, you can, that's what my wife does, honestly, with all of our dogs. They'll charge the door because they're nuts, and they'll charge the door, and they're dogs, they'll go crazy. And then my wife goes, "Okay, come," and she has to put leashes on some of them and puts them all in the bathroom. That's her room of choice. And then she goes to the door and she just goes, "Done, problem solved." That's the way she approaches it, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? As long as the dogs are all safe in the other room as well, because sometimes that can cause an issue. We got the little box following me around again. Hello, Mr. Box. Sorry about that, guys.
It's got a mind of its own.
Yeah, that's fun. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely, yeah. There's another question here now. Tell me if we've kind of touched on this already. What are your suggestions for training a puppy not to run and bark at vehicles? Again, are we going back to like the safety thing and potentially a leash?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would say dogs that like to chase vehicles, I go, what am I missing? Like, what am I missing? And it's the same thing with everything, right? So like that, do you guys know what the wheel of life is? Have you seen that? Or like a life wheel, a life balance wheel, where it's like, it's it's a circle with 8 different points typically. Sometimes they have 6, whatever. And it's like finances, 1 out of 5. How good is my understanding of my finances, or how good is my financial situation? Spiritual, relationship, physical, mental. There's these different elements. So that's where I did this with the dog. So it's like health and play and body language. And one of the sections is us. Like, how much are we working on ourselves? Anyway, so there's all these different elements. And what am I doing with my dog? Am I unintentionally teaching my dog to chase the car? So for example, we're out in the front yard and my wife, comes home, or whoever comes home, and the dog, they pull up and I go, oh, well, it's my wife. So I let the dog go and they run, and then the wife stops and gets out and, hey, puppy, lots of attention. So then the dog learns, chase the car, right? But we seem to think that it's okay. And back to the jumping as well. Like, well, I don't mind if the dog jumps on me, but I don't want the dog to jump on anyone else. The dogs can learn that, but it's very confusing if you're not consistent. So with changing behavior or teaching behavior, it's timing, consistency, motivation, and intent. What am I trying to do here, right? What's the end goal of all of this? So yes, with a puppy especially, you want to change that behavior. So a car driving by could mean, run up onto the porch and we'll play fetch, or run up onto the porch. Like, you can totally change that pattern of see the car, and the car means something totally different now. But in order to make that a successful event, you need to have tools on the dog. You need to have a leash. You need to have a harness. I'm a huge fan of harnesses with puppies. It's not because my goal isn't, I'm trying to get you to, do a perfect heel or something like that. My goal is that I need to keep you with me, and I don't want to be, choking you at the same time, right? So harness, leash, food, reward, and redirect. And it's that consistency factors. Like, if you live on a dirt road with one other person past you, and you only get to do this once a day or once every other day, or you have no idea when it's going to happen, you're not going to change the behavior. Like, it's just not going to happen because it's not happening enough. It's like doing one curl of 150 pounds. Like, you just pop, there goes your arm, and you're done. So it's the same thing with your puppy. We want to set them up for success as opposed to failure.
It's interesting because they're saying that she does it while sitting in the back of the car too. My dog does.
You're kind of choppy there. What did she say?
She the dog, even when in the car, in the back seat of the car, will jump at the windows while they're driving past other cars.
Yeah, so she's just jacked up. So I would say that there's probably a lot of freedom happening with that dog, like too much freedom. So oftentimes when there's kind of extreme behaviors like this, like the dog's losing her mind over everything, any sort of trigger, like leaves are blowing and cars are driving by and people are at the door, and anything is like, there's so much more missing in terms of the dogs. Like, there's just a lot of times those dogs, and I don't know you. I mean, maybe I do, but I don't think I do because I'm not reading the comments here and the names because I'm blind as a bat. But most of the time, I'm going to speak in generalizations. And a lot of the times, those dogs have way too much freedom, in my experience. And some people go, this isn't a problem. Like, there's a lot of people that their dogs do this and it's not a problem, right? But a lot of times those dogs, there's toys everywhere and they're allowed to do everything. And so the dog you're not teaching the dog what you don't want them to do. But equally, you're not teaching them what you want them to do. So there's just a lack of education there. It's just kind of, well, you're a free agent. So again, you come back to like, do I want to teach them something different? Do I want to teach them not to do these things? But when we just go like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And this is a lot of the questions that I often get is like, how do I get my dog to stop doing something? But we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing to influence that? What are we feeding the dog? What are we not feeding the dog? Like not giving your dog a Timbit isn't animal cruelty. I just want to put that out there. Like they may, and maybe like every other time they don't need a Timbit, right? You can wean yourself off some of these behaviors as well. So what am I doing nutritionally? What am I doing exercise-wise? Am I teaching the dog a little bit of self-restraint? And you can do this with puppies by having a leash and a harness on them and throwing a ball and going, nope, you're not you're not going right now, until you get that, boom, way you go get that ball. So you can start to teach your dog calmness through different like play exercise things to go, when you freak out, you don't ever get what you want. So it's like, okay, we're intentionally going for a drive to set this up to work on something else, but how did we get into the car? Was it, do you want to go in the car? Do you want to go in the car? Who wants to go in the car? Who wants to go in the car? We're going in the car. And the dog's like, yeah, we're going in the car. And then we wonder why they're freaking out and hitting the windows, because we jacked them up beforehand. Did we give them a bunch of, freeze-dried liver before we put them in the car? So there's nutritional things, there's exercise things. And then of course you could just avoid the problem by having a kennel in the car. The dog's in the kennel, there's a dark blanket over it, and you just desensitize. You've got lavender and vetiver and frankincense going diffused heavily, very, very, small amounts, but you can do a lot of natural things as well to just kind of cut down some of the tension as well.
If he's still there, Scott, if you're still there,
Scott's here.
What breed is your dog?
Terrier. Some sort of terrier.
I wonder if he's still there.
Yeah, he said, thank you for those great tips. Mini Australian Shepherd.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
there you go. It's a breed thing.
Just that's what I wanted to ask you.
5 months.
Pardon?
Oh, yeah.
Do some like herding dogs, like herding breeds, have more tendencies to
totally
chase cars and be like hyper alert with everything, and
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the dog is bred to do that. So
yeah,
good dog, right? Like
so
for me, I go like that's good genetics. So you harness. So for me, I go I harness it. Like this dog here, Rush. For those of you just tuning in, like he's a you're hiding. How do I do this without falling over? I don't know if those are your toes or that's your head. What that is? Okay, so he is like a boxer pit bull lab mix something. I don't know. I did the stupid DNA my dog test, and they're like, back then they're like, what do you think he is? Rip off. Anyway, so he loves to bite. That dog loves to bite, like tug and shake and all that stuff. So I bought the full Clada thing and the bite sleeve, and he loves it. It's a blast. And when he does that, I'm fulfilling some of his genetic desires, right? Like some of his genetic traits, to go take all that stuff that I don't like, that you love, and just harness it, right? So there's all kinds of things that you can do with your dog. But what a lot of people do with dogs like this is they go, okay, I'm going to fulfill that need. Chase the ball, 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 and chase the ball some more. And the dog never learns to turn off. The dog never learns to not chase the ball. Right. And so it's that, like, there's a time and a place to fulfill, because if that dog just bit me all the time, if I just lifted my arm up like this, and I've made that mistake, and that to teach him that when that toy isn't on, you can't just lock onto my forearm, Rush, because you're a 70-pound boxer pit bull something. And so he's definitely bit me. Like, I've definitely had to learn the hard way, because this action meant come up and bite the thing, right? And so teaching him that restraint, and having a leash and a crate are often your best friends, especially with puppies, because sometimes there's those moments where it's like, and this is where people like Cesar Millan that talk a lot about leadership and being calm and being assertive and all of that stuff, not in a negative way, in a positive way. Again, it's like when I was 25, it wouldn't have mattered. It would have helped to meditate, and it would have helped to eat a balanced diet, and it would have helped to not be a smoker and to not drink and to do all the things that I eventually have come to not do. But there are moments in our lives where we just can't do that, right? It's just like, my partner just died, or there was a car accident that I got to get to, or it's just I didn't sleep last night, where it's just like, I can't deal with you right now. I can't deal. So can you just go in your crate, or can you just go with, maybe it's like go with the dog walker, or go with the trainer, or go to the daycare, or whatever. Sometimes there's alternatives. I just want people to understand that there's nothing wrong with not being able to do it yourself right away. And and in my opinion, it is okay to go like, I'm just going to avoid this right now. Right. Like that is a totally legit option. So fulfilling the brief, but also stressing that muscle that is the brain, that is always growing and always able to handle going like, you're not allowed to go right now. And so, because that dog will go 23 hours a day.
Even if they're older, like can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Or am I breaking up again? So even if you have an older, like you've rescued an older herding dog, you still think that you can help them that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just that muscle of like, you can't, right? So it's going to take tools. It's going to take pressure to go like, it comes back to that relationship thing, right? Where it's like getting into a relationship in your 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s or whatever is like, that person did that thing for 40 years prior to you. Mm-hmm. And it might be smoking, it might be drinking, it might be swearing, it might be, cutting people off, and like, it might be like not good behaviors. Mm-hmm. And you could chip away at them. But if you think that you're going to change that person or that dog overnight, you're fooling yourself. Right? I mean, we've all been there with people. It's very relatable. I try to use a lot of analogies with people. And I know, and I practice, and I very much feel that we're different species. We operate differently. However, there's a lot of principles that can still be applied of that discipline. They put pressure on each other. You watch a pack of dogs, they are not that nice with each other all the time. They'll move each other, they'll force each other, but they also have a lot fewer social restraints in terms of sure. they don't care if you run and bark at another car, like whatever, they might join you, right?
They're probably a little less suppressed.
Yeah, absolutely. There are few rules, but they are serious rules. Yeah. Right? Like if you're not allowed to hump me, you're not allowed to hump me. If you're not allowed to take my bone, you are not taking my bone. And so fewer rules, but yeah, they're very intense. So with this little Aussie, I would say accept that you bought a herding breed. Just like it comes back to the Mastiff, right? Like the Mastiff is protective of the kids. It's a Mastiff. That's like it. So that was what the lady said about the pit bull, is like there's these nanny type pitties that are like really, really soft and gentle with kids and people, but they're not very tolerant of other animals. A lot of times they're less tolerant in my experience. And I don't know how you define like it's just kind of one of those things that you experience, I think, unless there's like a breed of pit bull nanny. Lord knows there's some official title for everything, isn't there? So
yeah, or like a line.
Yeah. So with the Aussie, I would say find things that you can do to fulfill, but this is a great age where you can go, you take the ball and just not exciting, and you just throw the ball a little bit, but you're set up where it's like, oh, you went for it. Well, you're teaching them not to get it, right? So you're restraining that. And then especially when you get that, that's the relax. Now you can go. So then you're teaching your dog to relax. By relaxing, you get the reward. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, very cool. That's important. You guys, do we have time for a couple more?
Yeah.
There's two here that are quite similar, Evan, and it's about resource guarding. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Do they have specifics?
Yes, 8-month-old puppy resource guarding his bed, special treats, starts growling, stiffens up, bites, and then the other one that's also, oh, sorry, I thought there was two. Maybe I'm wrong. No, just the one. Thanks.
Okay. So first of all, I mean, my heart goes out to you. That's a tough situation where you start to feel a little bit like a prisoner in your own home is like, and it will get worse. Like this is one of those things where it does not get better on its own. A lot of people say, oh, they'll age out of it. And some things they will. I mean, they eventually age out of everything, right? So there's a time limit on anything where the dog just can't jump up anymore. No, it doesn't jump up anymore. Like some things take 15 years, some things take 5 months, and some things just keep getting worse to the point where like it's dangerous. So first of all, I'm sorry to hear that, and it is frustrating. But you've kind of painted a picture. Now I'm curious to know why you think the dog is doing it. What's the person's name?
Anne, are you still here?
I'm curious to see if you have any suspicions as to why your dog may or may not be acting that way. So, is she here?
Yeah, she's here. Anne, could you
all right, Anne, confession time, sweetheart. Let's hear it. What are the things that you're doing, not doing? What is the dog doing or not doing causing this problem?
If you want, Anne, I can allow you to talk here if it's easier than typing.
She's probably saying, well, that's why I'm asking you. You can come on here to answer my own damn question. All right, Anne, you're live.
Hey, hi there. So he's a Cavalier, and it's not known for this breed to usually have this temperament.
Oh,
so,
yes, it is.
Okay, so now I know. But I'm not really sure why. He around about
don't lie to yourself, Anne. Come on. What's the answer? Why is he doing it?
I think he's trying to protect it from me trying to grab like toys or things like that he's not supposed to have.
Huh? And why is he pushing you? What is the reason that he's pushing you away?
I really don't know.
I don't know how to ask it in a different way. I mean, I think.
Okay. Yeah, please do, because maybe I'm just not understanding it.
No, yeah, and that's totally a possibility. So, in my experience, the reason that it is prevalent with this breed is how many beds does he have?
Oh, multiple.
How many?
Well, about 3 or 4, and we also have another puppy. So we've engaged a behaviorist, and she told us to pick up all the beds and not have anything that he can resource guard or do anything like that with around.
Yeah. How many of those beds are Tempur-Pedic?
Oh, none.
Partially Tempur-Pedic. How many toys? How many buckets of toys are around the house?
Gosh,
two or 300.
2. Yeah, that's about 20 toys around. But
is the food always down?
No.
Is it dry and wet?
No, we raw feed.
Oh, cool. Awesome. How many times a day do you feed?
Right now, 3 times a day.
Okay. So in my experience, and again, I don't know you from a hole in the wall, is that these dogs are put on an absolute pedestal. They are princes and kings. I mean, it's a Cavalier King Charles, for the love of God.
Yes, okay,
you're treating him like a king, right? And so what happens is these little dogs that spend a ton of time up here, right? I've never met a Cavalier King Charles taller than this, and they live up here. So then they get this, because I believe, well, I shouldn't say God made them that size. We made them that size, but they're down here. So they're kind of their existence is always looking up. Okay. And so like, if this is my experience, even camera angle wise, you start to get a perspective of this. Okay. So this starts to be, and it's a whole like Alfred Hitchcock thing. This gets dominating, right? This gets very ominous and very, it's kind of scary, right? So automatically small dogs, in my experience, are defensive because they're up a lot of times when they're puppies. And then when they get older and they're more squirmy and they're less tolerant, and we put them on the ground, they don't know how to cope. They do not know how to cope looking up and being, and so they're oftentimes like, you take any dog, like any small, medium, large, because that's like a almost a micro breed in a way, or I guess it's a small breed. everything is like, oh my God. And so they need to go, oh, get out of my face. So that's part of it, is just size. They're up here all the time, then they're down there. So for those of us, for the people out there with puppies, it's like, it's fine to pick them up, and it's important to pick them up, and it's important to do all that stuff. But a lot of people with small dogs, they're always rescuing them. They're always protecting them and always lifting them up. And then they don't know how to cope down below. Sometimes you have to do that. However, lifting a little dog up around big dogs will make those big dogs go, ooh, prey. And I used to have little dogs, like little Chihuahua mixed dogs.
Sure.
And I would just like, as an experiment around the other pack of dogs, pick them up, and they would all go like, it was unhealthy. It's not, I mean, it's unhealthy because the little dog might be dinner, but like it's, so you want to try to keep them down. Now, a lot of times it's like the dog's just not used to having to do things, right? Having to do things that the dog doesn't want to have to do.
He's spoiled. Yeah, we have 2 Cavaliers. So yes, he is absolutely spoiled rotten.
See, I knew you knew the answer, Anne. I knew you knew it. So if you just unspoil them a bit by bit, but I want you, if you want to make this a lasting change, Anne, you got to write it down. Pen to paper, is the way for us over all these years. There's just that neurological click where you write down in the 7 Elements course. It's the first thing that you got to do. You got to print out a sheet of goals and frustrations, two sheets that you need to print out, and you just put it on the fridge. You can just take a piece of paper, write down, I will spoil my dog less, and then concrete steps as to some of those things. It doesn't mean that your dog needs to you need to put them on the cold linoleum out in the garage or something like you don't need to go full boot camp, whatever craziness. Eventually you might get there. Now, one of the things that I like to do and teach people to do is to get their dogs to work for that food. So whether it's hard when it's not hard when it's raw, it's just a different challenge. Sometimes it's just dicing things up slightly. Sometimes it's a rubber glove. Although I go, just wash your hands, save the planet. You don't need to be using reusable plastic gloves all the time. But you can freeze them in little tiny cubes. You can get dehydrated food. You could buy a dehydrated, and all their organ meat goes for that. And it's just about starting to work this in. And maybe your first day is just you ask your dog to come to you and sit. And then things that are gonna cause problems. So then the dog starts to change their mindset, as opposed to I can just pick up any toy all the time. It's like, where are those toys? Oh, mom has them. Oh, they're mom's toys. If I want to get them, I need to do things for them. And it's not like mine all the time. It's the intent, right? It's like, I'm just trying to teach my dog a lesson, which is that like, this is our ball. It's my ball, it's your ball, but ultimately you're not allowed to bite me. Right? There's a consequence for that stuff, right? And before you even go to, maybe you go, I don't want to do any in terms of like consequences to immediate actions, like you speed, you get a ticket. Like you can avoid all of that, but it will never deal with the root of the problem in terms of like, if your dog tried to bite one of my dogs, it would turn into a fight and one of them would win. And then they would go, okay, I'm in charge. You can start to change the relationship rather than going that direct, because you're not a dog. And more than that, you're a human that spoils for dogs because you love them and it's how you want to show them love. And so you can show them love in a different way by stressing that relationship and changing it, of going like you're stressing the muscles, right? I don't want you to think of it like you're straining it in terms of like, well, I'm not giving them everything I want, but I think you would probably agree to say that giving someone everything they want is not healthy for them, right? We want to show a little bit of restraint there and go, hey, I'm providing all these things for you. Can you do a little bit for me as well? And it starts to change the dynamic, and the dogs start to look at us differently, like we matter. Because to all of my friends that I went to high school with that are still living in their parents' basements, probably wish that their parents didn't give them everything, because you're a loser now, right? You're living in your parents' basement and you're in your 30s. Like your life isn't great. But like my parents, since I was 8, I've been pushing a lawnmower, right? And it's not because they didn't have money. It's because I had to work for it. You go and work for it. And it creates that work ethic. So you can do that with their food. You can do that with their toys. You can do that with their beds. You can do that for affection. There's a lot of little things that you can do. And then when it comes down to like safety, because even a bite from a Cavalier or a Chihuahua, it hurts. I mean, it can be
Right.
debilitating sometimes. Like, I've been bitten in the thumb by a little dog, and like, I didn't want to pick anything up. I was, writing like this, like it was terrible. And so there's certain situations where, yeah, well, by talking to the behaviorist, I would say that's spot on. Like, you can avoid the frustration, but also work on the relationship in terms of, let's start to get the dog to look at you a little differently.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I hope it helps.
Awesome. That was great. Should we do one more question for speed round? There's 2 people asking, can you talk about any tips for a successful introduction, a new dog into the home?
Puppy or adult dog?
One's a 4-year-old. One is about to introduce a puppy, and Joy is considering adopting a pitty.
Okay, cool. So puppies in the online program, I show in the puppy, there's a whole section on raising a rescue dog and raising a puppy. I couldn't just do so for me, they're both raising. Like, you can get a 10-year-old dog and you still got to raise that dog.
Right.
Like, because you're forming a relationship, right? So you're raising the relationship. You're growing a puppy. You're growing togetherness with this rescue dog. So for both people, it's similar. Safety is number one. Okay, safety is number one. So that might be a fence, a crate, leashes. Here's the thing about leashes. As soon as you start to let me paint a little bit of a picture, because this is my version of speed round. We've all seen this. If you've ever been to the bar, especially a university town, you go to the bar and there's 2 knuckleheads, okay? And it's blah, 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 blah. And they're talking, and they're kind of yelling and spitting and beers flying. But nothing happens because they're both, neither of them are really that brave until one of their friends does this. No, Frank, it's not worth it. Come on back. And then it happens, right? So that restraint. So this is where letting 2 dogs meet. And you see it all the time where people are letting their dogs drag them over to meet the other dog. That can create a lot of frustration, especially if there's some defense involved there. So put the puppy in a crate, let the older dog come in and investigate, okay? With the older dog, one of the things that you can do is just let them come towards each other at the fence. Go ahead.
You're gone.
Oh, okay. And I'm back. So they let the older dog come in, crate, and then go for a walk. So, and then with the older dog, fence or parallel walk that eventually does, I like to do this. So like if these are the noses, that the more insecure dog goes behind first. So these 2 people are walking, okay? They're walking like this, and then for like kilometers, and then eventually into the wind, the more insecure dog first goes behind, and then they get all that information. Because that's all they really want. They just want to smell each other. Sometimes it starts off by, right? But you can avoid that by a fence, but also going for a long parallel walk together, more insecure dog, because they're going to feel pursued, right? So the more confident dog is like, I don't really care as much as the other dog about being pursued. I get that smell, and then we walk parallel, and then we can switch. And then when you finally do let them meet, again, there's all video explanations in the course, but basically I want my dog to stay on my side. So if this is you and your dog, you want to be over here with the leash over there. I don't want your dog to come on my side. So I might have to turn with my dog as the leash, because the worst thing is when the leashes get tangled up. And so, and just because it didn't go well the first time doesn't mean that it's not going to turn into a relationship. Again, like, there's been a lot of people in my life. My very best friend, I may have had a couple of beers in me, but I very much insulted him. I was like, hey, you look like basically one of the ugliest stand-up comedians on the face of the earth. And he's like, I know exactly who that is. Wait a minute, that's a terrible thing to say to someone. He's my best friend. So our first interaction wasn't so hot, but 15 years later, we're still talking. So, and enjoying each other. So just because it doesn't go smoothly, it's the same thing as you're at the dog park or someone comes into your home. Again, safety first, but some relationships take time.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Evan, if there's a couple questions that didn't get answered, do you also take consults?
So you guys can come over to my page. I realize that I didn't share this on my page. I'm gonna not blame that on myself. Okay, I have to blame it on myself because Steffi B, as always, prepared, sent me a link an hour ago. So on my page, Doggett Style Dog Training, on the Facebook page, there's like 2,000 videos. There's over 2,000 videos of training, but also I try to do a live Q&A every Friday or every 2 weeks.
Awesome.
It just kind of depends on my schedule. So I do a live Q&A over there, and there's a lot of content also on Instagram as well.
Great. I just put your Facebook page in the chat, and if you're interested in Evan's course, I also linked that in the chat as well, doggettstyle.com. Thank you.
I'm doing it.
Oh yeah.
I am. I have.
Atta girl.
You know, my biggest thing before we end, I let my dog get away with everything usually, and it's mostly because I feel guilty that I don't spend enough time with him.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm so busy and I work all the time, and I don't feel like I'm spending enough time with him, so that the time I do spend with him, if he's being a bit bratty, I just can't. It's like, okay, I'm just taking you out now for a walk. You've been asking me for attention all day. Now I'm taking you for a walk, and I'm going to be like making you do stuff. And then I feel really bad. And then I can't. And it's like, oh, so that's
the way you interpret that. But I wonder how your dog interprets that. I think he's just happy to be with you, right? Like he's like, yeah, whatever. Especially, here's the thing is that everybody wants what they can't have. Everybody, right? Like I want a Tesla, but like I'll get one and then I'll be like, oh, there's nowhere to charge the thing, right? I live in rural Nova Scotia. I'll be on the side of the road going, gas isn't that bad. Anyway, everyone wants what they can't have. So our dogs, the same thing works. So sometimes, like for Anne, for example, sometimes that's affection. For those of us that give so you're doing up, there's always equal and opposite reactions, right? Anne's giving too much attention and her dog's become a brat. You're giving not enough attention and your dog's acting out, right? So sometimes engaging with them a little and then walking away. Like one of my favorite things to do is I call it pet them and forget them. So a new dog comes up to you, you give them one stroke, typically under the chin is a lot safer than getting pushed down on the head wouldn't feel very good. So just one little stroke and then forget them. And oh, did they come back for more if they want it, right? And if they don't, well, it's a good thing you stop petting them after one, right? So you pet them and then you do this to your own dog and they'll be like, where's the other 2,000, right? And they'll come back. So, and it might be something. Now, the other thing about like getting them to do something is dogs love speed, especially young dogs. So if you go sit, break, like as soon as their bum hits the ground, break, you're done. And they're like, oh, but what most humans want is sit, don't move, be a statue. Don't make any noises. Don't do anything. Don't touch anything. I'm a father of 2 young boys, 3 and 5, and that's literally my existence. And like, I've made all the mistakes with my dogs too. So don't feel like I'm Mr. Perfect. I mean, I am, but I'm not. So the dogs, like the kid, don't touch this and don't move that. And don't hit your brother and get off the counter. Don't, it's just like, as opposed to like, hey, do you guys want to do this activity? And every time they say yes, right? So it's the same thing with the dogs, but like, do it, you're done. Do it, you're done. Sit, done. Lay down, you're done. And you just make it more of a game. Because your dog wants to interact with you, Julie. I mean, like,
oh yeah,
for sure. So it wouldn't matter what you're doing. And then the other part of everyone wants what they can't have. And then everyone and everything is motivated by something. Plants, where's the sun or where's the water?
Yeah.
Right? The moon, where's the other thing that I'm pulling? Like everything has an equal and opposite reaction, but everything is motivated by something. I don't know what the moon's motivation is, but keep doing your thing. Keep making those waves come. So, with the dog, it's like, it's food, it's affection, it's freedom, it's social time, it's smelling, That's one thing that I'm really starting to play with a lot more, and I'm going to include in the program is all the nose things that I'm doing with my dogs to satisfy them, because it's a workout. You want to see a tired dog, start doing nose stuff. It's not going to help them walk better on leash, and it's not going to get them necessarily to stop jumping up on people, but like, holy fulfillment. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Well, I think it stimulates hormones, right? So like them smelling.
Yeah.
So when they are tired,
I never thought of it on a hormonal level.
Yeah, for sure it does. I think it stimulates dopamine, and I think
Right. Yeah.
It even stimulates it stimulates
like their adrenal glands and all that stuff.
And GI stuff and all kinds of stuff. So I think it just balances them out too, right?
And it's also that, like, you know, like, well, for raw groups, this will be less, but you take a couple of drops of blood and you put it out in the grass, and they're like, it's amazing, because where I live, there's, you know, like, it's out in the boons, and watching the dogs smell in the morning, all the deer that went by and all the critters that ran through the grass, they're just like, and they come back after that, like that morning walk. There's no high octane stuff. There's no four-wheeling. There's no, you know, playing fetch. It's just smelling, and they're like satisfied.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
super, that's interesting. I never thought about that. My guy's getting older, and he just wants to pander around. But when I walk him in the morning before I start working, he takes his time. Leith told me that it's called checking the pee mail. And he sniffs everything. And yeah, when he gets back home, he's happy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Very
that
interesting.
that morning smell.
Yeah. Thank you for everything tonight, Evan. That was really great. Super educational.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and, you know, pushing me to be a better trainer, you know, having you guys on, having me on here. And just, I'm always so open to learning, and I think we should do this again sometime. And I would love to, maybe we'll have a story evening, and it won't be a Q&A. It'll just be exchanging stories, and other people can tell stories. I think that's
yeah, we can totally do that. That'd be fun.
That'd be awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thanks for hanging out. I know we went over time. We typically do. Everyone,
you said we would.
Hey, I told everyone, pack a snack.
Pack a snack, because this one's going to go over time.
You guys, we'll see you next week. Everyone have a great end of the week, and have a good evening. Thank you. Good night.
See you later.
Thanks, guys. Know what you're loved.
Bye.
Bye.